Hi everybody, welcome to Counseling 611, that's 611, Crisis and Trauma. Now this is sort of the Hollywood part, which isn't really Hollywood, but it's the part we always hear about us in the therapeutic world is doing good work. And it's the intense stuff. It's the stuff you've got to be fast on your feet for. I've got protocols for all this stuff. You'll go through the protocols. Your faculty member will go through all this. You can handle this. But, you know, the more and more you stay in our world, life is critical. There are a lot of crises in life, and there's a lot of trauma in life too. There's all sorts of hurts and losses and things that we never expected and stressors. And so you can do so much good for your client when you learn these techniques. And remember, I'll just kind of beat the drum again, always tie in crisis and trauma to character. Because a person who has a very weak character and a really disconnected character, you know, the four areas, is going to experience crisis and trauma in a much more severe way than somebody whose character is strong, or someone who's not working on their character. So you're working on that character, all those four aspects all the time, or you're taking kind of your breaks to make sure crisis and trauma are handled. Don't ever, ever, ever treat someone just with the crisis and just with the trauma. You know what's going to happen? They'll be so weak and unable to handle They'll be unable to handle the demands of reality. They'll come back after the next loss, and the next kid is born, and they lose the next job, and their next relationship blows up, and they get the next medical problem. You don't want to keep these people forever because their ego and their character was so weak that they can't handle life. You're strengthening them while you're helping with the crisis. Character has always got to be right front and center. Great Bible verse about this is in Isaiah 35:3. Strengthen the feeble hands and steady the knees that give way. Is there anything we can do as healers that's helpful and redemptive is that people with crisis and trauma, their hands are weak and they don't make good decisions and their knees are giving way, means they can't stand up and have a foundation. Well, you're providing those. Sometimes you are the foundation. You know, you provide the foundation through them internalizing you as a strong person who cares, but sooner or later then you're able to just help them do that for themselves. So much material we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about crisis theory because fortunately there's so much good theory out there about that. Multidisciplinary responses to crises, because anything from systems or from analytic theory to social work to foster homes to you know, the psychiatric world, all the different disciplines have their own approaches to crisis. So good to have this information. Emergencies and disasters, absolutely. You know, kind of funny here, as I didn't realize this, today as I'm recording this, this is 9/11 day when our nation went through one of its greatest traumas. So you're going to get help to help people no matter whether it's a national or world emergency or whatever, or if it's something that happened in a deep part of themselves in a relationship early in life. Affective, meaning emotional, behavioral, and neurological effects associated with trauma, especially the neurological. The more we're learning about the neurological, the better you'll be able to help them. Brief and intermediate and long-term approaches. Sometimes if you're going to be doing triage, for example, you got to learn what to do in just a few minutes to get them stable again, reality testing back, get them functioning again, get them connected again. And then medium and long-term, obviously, what you want them to do is to be able to become strong and resilient enough they can handle just about anything, except for major trauma, and while they're hurting and they're derailed, they're not derailed from functioning in life. Assessment strategies, very important. Your professors are going to help with assessment strategies for clients that are in crisis. Principles of intervention for those who have mental and emotional disorders during the time of crisis. So they're already struggling with a major depression or anxiety disorder, drug addiction, personality disorder, and then they hit that on top of them. Well, now you've got somebody who's got stress upon stress upon stress and not a lot inside to handle that. And how do you do that? We're going to help you with specialized skills of those people who have who are experiencing trauma in crisis within the context of themselves and their own skin, but also their family, because God made us family people, and also the larger community. So I guess the one thing I want you to remember that would be really helpful for this course is that you really can do stuff about this. Don't just, I know when I first started getting my own training on this, my first thought was, I can't do this. I got to refer it to somebody else because you got to think so quickly. But after you learn these techniques, you're going to go through enough practice with them, this sort of thing. It's sort of like being a triage doctor. You know exactly what happens when somebody stops breathing. You know exactly what happens when you've got arterial bleeding. It's the same way with us. When you see these things that could be very serious, the protocols work. They work with thousands and thousands of clients. Learn the stuff, practice the stuff. I hope this is a very meaningful course for you and it will pay off in your future career. All right, go for it.